All right, here we go. Let's start. Hey, yo, what it is and what's good, y'all? Welcome back to 280 Plus, the social media podcast where I take the conversations off the timeline and go beyond the tweets. I'm your host, Los Def, and I'm back here for episode 208 of the platform. If you're brand new to the channel, I'd like you to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button for notifications. If you want to join the conversation, leave a comment below. If you know anybody that's interested in what I'm talking about, you can hit that share button and share the love, right? So we're back here for episode 208, and this episode is a little bit late. I've been kind of busy with some things. I'm in the process of I'm not moving, but I'm combining houses, So I didn't realize how big of a issue that could be, or just like kind of like the hurdles that you kind of come across when you're taking two established houses and then you're trying to make them into one, and one is coming into the other one instead of like two separate houses coming into one house, like a brand new house. It's like two established houses and one is merging into the other house. So just kind of been busy with stuff like that, my son's football, and then just overall just trying to keep myself, sane a little bit. This last couple weeks have been kind of weird with just what's been kind of going on social media and just mass media in general. Like, there's been a lot of stuff going on. So obviously we're going to touch on some of that type of stuff, probably from a little bit of a different angle. We know we're going to talk about that tragedy that happened. We're going to talk a little bit about that tragedy that happened in Utah Valley State. We also going to talk about cancel culture, and we're going to talk about what's happened with Jimmy Fallon and his show. We're going to get into a poll that kind of relates to some of this type of stuff and how they're using one historical figure to compare him to a contemporary figure. And let's see, in lighter news, did y'all hear about this story about this all-female nightclub that got closed down after one night? So we'll talk about what kind of led to that close down, but also trying to fact check and trying to like kind of poke some holes into this because maybe it's not exactly what it seems. And then the thing I'm probably most excited about is to be able to talk to you guys a little bit about the Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford fight, which was over a week ago, and it was epic to me. It was a master class, and we're gonna get into how and why Terence Crawford was victorious. All right. So let's see. Before we get started though, how y'all been doing? Y'all been good? I've been on a little bit of a I wouldn't say a fitness kick, but I'm in a good fitness routine right now for myself. So I used to work out like after school, or I used to work out I guess, yeah, the after school hours, you know what I mean? Like, whenever my son would be out of school, I would kind of work out then. But yeah, just kind of like in the afternoon, I would work out. And I was able to work out kind of where at my place of employment because we had a weight room there, so I would kind of get it in there. The problem is though, so I commute to work, so my commute it would just make my day a little bit longer. So I'd be staying, maybe I start at 3, leave at 4:30, and then I'm not getting home till like 5:15 or something like that. So then if my son has practice at 6 o'clock, it's pretty much that I'm like coming in the door, coming out, and then just like it's just a whirlwind. If I want to decide to make dinner or trying to figure out what to make for dinner, it would just always end up being a mess. So I said, "Yo, all right, I got to make a different kind of sacrifice. I gotta get out of my comfort zone and do something that people have been doing for a long time, but it's something that I always kind of frowned upon, or something I thought like, I can't really get into that." So I actually work out in the morning, y'all. So this week coming up will be my fifth week of doing this in a row. So, and I'm trying not to step on scales because the scales always tell you something a little bit different. But yeah, I've been working out every day, 4 days a week. So I work out pretty much the normal work days, and then Fridays I usually play basketball at my job before work. So I get like 4 days of like gym work. So it's like lifting and cardio, all the stuff that you do at the gym. and then one day, 1 or 2 days a week, I'll play basketball. So I've been pretty active. I didn't play basketball yesterday, but I did play Friday. But yeah, it's a task, man. Getting up at like I get up at like 5. I don't end up after I get myself together. My bag is all packed and everything, but by the time I get wake up and get myself together to leave the house, I because I have to have everything. I got to get my lunch. I got to get all my clothes ready. I have to have everything ready, right? So I do a lot of stuff before the night before, and then I get to the gym about 5:30, and I got like 45 minutes that I gotta like maximize that 45 minutes, and then so I'm hitting the showers by like 6:15. I'm getting out of the gym probably by like 6:30, 6:35, and then I start my commute, and it's about a half hour, and I got to be work by like 7:30. So yeah, it's been every morning I wake up, I'm like, shit, like I'm tired. I'm like regretting my decision. But it feels good to work out in the morning because like you're already you felt like you accomplished something. You know what I mean? Every day I already feel like I accomplished something. And then it's like not this I don't have no guilt looming over my head to where I feel like, oh, I still got to work out, or there's really no excuse for me to skip, you know what I mean? Like especially if I have to prepare the night before, but there's really no reason for me to skip unless I guess I don't wake up for whatever reason, but I usually don't have any trouble with waking up. So I have no excuse. If I have to work out after work, that's when the excuses come. That's when like things pop up. That's when you have to run errands. That's when you have to make dinner. That's when anything can happen. It's easy to forget something that you need. So working out in the morning eliminates a lot of excuses, and I'm trying to make this like because I've always wanted it to be like a lifestyle thing, because I think everybody goes through, and I'm not a gym freak, but everybody goes through those phases where you're working out consistently, and then all it takes is like a week or two of you getting off track because something has come up that makes it easy to derail you. Well, I feel like if this is something part of your daily routine in terms of like when you wake up, it's easier. I think it's going to be easier to keep this habit, and this is how you make it a lifestyle. So yeah, it does come with some sacrifice. So I'm working out. um I wish I had a little bit more time to work out, which would require me to kind of get to the gym a little bit earlier, but I think we're seeing results. I think it's good, but it's like I said, it's a work in progress, and it's something that I want to be doing. 6 months from now, you know what I mean, when we hit like April, I want to be, yeah, like this is, I still want this to be my routine. Like I don't want it to break my routine, and like I look at it like that. I look at it from the perspective of like, yo, we're gonna compound this success, this fitness journey. We're gonna compound it with daily gains, whether no matter how small they are, daily gains and daily consistency to get us to a point to where we're lit. So working out 4 days a week. I don't work out on the weekends though, except for maybe play basketball. But like I don't, and I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that. But I usually take those days to just kind of chill. I probably should watch what I like, just be mindful of what I'm eating on those days if I'm not gonna be working out. But like, yeah, so yeah, that's what's going on in my life, and so yeah, like I said, got some other things going on with some a move, but also. Yeah, man, I've been mad consistent at the gym, like mad consistent. So I'm excited for that. But it's yeah, getting ready at the gym though sucks, man. Like old heads, man, they don't care. They just like be wilding in the locker room. I'm all private, but then it's like you gotta just make sure you have everything, and the shower is not bad. Like it's good power, good temperature. It's just getting ready and like just the whole getting ready in a locker room sucks, bro. It just sucks. It ain't like getting ready in your bedroom. You know what I mean? So, but we're gonna stay consistent. But all right, let's get into it though, man. Let's get into what we had to talk about today. And I'm gonna pull up my docket here. I don't think I have any videos to share this week. I think it's going to be pretty straightforward in terms of the content. All right, so first topic, man, we talking about that tragedy. So, September 10th, a very, and this is what I say, it nothing takes away from the how heinous and kind of how cruel or how kind of outrageous this was. But on September 10th, a very heinous thing happened on a college campus in Utah. And once I saw it, I'm gonna tell you right now, I immediately said, I'm not about to talk about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm not touching that topic with a 100 foot pole. Like, and for the most part, I'm still not really touching on that topic because for me, I must just say, I don't think it's not worth it to me. It's not worth it. I'm not gonna talk to y'all about the actual event, like how and why it happened. I'm not getting into that. I'm gonna let law enforcement handle that part. I don't really have any speculation about that. Also, I realize the victim involved, he's dead. He's deceased, right? So that man was not a policymaker, right? And as divisive as I think he is, he didn't negatively impact my life, right? So it wasn't direct or anything like that. He wasn't a policymaker. Now he was probably gearing up to be in politics, but it was not he was not that. He was an influencer. You know what I mean? I wouldn't even call him a debater. He was an influencer. But another reason I'm not really gonna talk about it is because I'm not really into kicking somebody while they down. This man, not that I would ever get a chance to debate with him in like had he been here, but it almost don't make no sense to keep going on about like what his views were because the evidence is there, right? The evidence is there of who he was and what he stood for. And again, the way I'm talking is gonna be very neutral because I know what I believe. I know what I believe and I know what I heard and I know factually like how this man should be painted. You know what I mean? And it's not, and I'm gonna just say it's not in a positive light. It's not in a positive light. I know how he should be painted, and it is like kind of like it feels like gaslighting when somebody says, "Well, yeah, watch the whole thing in full context." And for me, I'm unlike a lot of people. I'm not saying there's no one like this, but I'm unlike a lot of people where I go out of my way to look at the other side because I need to know why I disagree with it. And so when you hear the other side, when they get to kind of just go off on their own tangents and they get to be around their like-minded people, you get to hear like the truth of where what it really is without hearing like spin. And I ain't gonna lie, most of the times there's not there don't really be no spin to it. Like I would come up with the same conclusions. But it just for me it don't make no sense to keep talking about like whether or not he was a racist, whether or not like it doesn't make any sense because people are already had their minds made up. Like we're not gonna change anyone's mind, right? Even like talking about Charlie Kirk, right? And that's the first time I said his name. But even talking about him, people who call him a debater. I'm gonna say this: there's not, you cannot have a good faith debate with the premise of prove me wrong, right? Because prove me wrong, like you're never gonna take you're never gonna take the L because being proven wrong would be the L. So you're never gonna take an L in public. You're never gonna let somebody see you that. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna deflect. I seen this new content creator. I kind of just discovered him, and maybe I might put a video up of him one day. But he called Charlie a malicious contrarian, and I said, yeah, that is what he is. Like he's not necessarily a debater, but he finds ways to kind of say popular things. He kind of argues the things that are like low hanging fruit without looking at nuance. And to be honest, anytime that you look at anything in full context of what he says, it only gets worse for Charlie. It doesn't get better. So again, I'm not in here to like really debate with people or even kind of like kick this man's back in. I felt how I felt about him. I don't think that should have happened to him in Utah. Like it's still wild when I think about it, and even the fact that it was publicized the way it was it's kind of crazy. Like that was some rotten.com type of stuff. Like that's some stuff that you would see online that you're not supposed to see it, and news outlets didn't particularly show it, but like we live in an age where you can get live footage sent to you, in a blink of an eye. It could hit social media and be across billions of accounts in a second. And it's kind of wild. Like, so that the spectacle of it, the fact that it happened in public, the fact that all those people that were there, they didn't ask for that to happen. They didn't want that to happen necessarily. And being shook. You know what I mean? I would have been shook if I was out there, because not knowing not knowing if he was necessarily the intended target, not knowing if this is about to be a mass incident. Yeah, you would be terrified, and then learning that his family was in the vicinity somewhere. They were there. It makes it kind of like it is kind of wild. So, but again, I'm not here to like necessarily debate against him, and I also don't want to hear anybody else defending him, because you already come from a premise of like you're not gonna allow any truth to be told. You're not gonna accept anything the contrary of what you already believe. Like everything that I'm saying is gonna be cognitive dissonance, and then everything you saying is gonna be cognitive dissonance. So it's like it gets us nowhere. So to keep talking about it, and that's why I see online it's like a lot of people going like just there some people are coming up with some good stuff and good proof for things, but it's like it goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm not about to waste my breath. Uh you can see his content for yourself. Not to mention, the craziest thing though about this whole thing is that Charlie Kirk was a big supporter, and he was very pro free speech. And another reason why I didn't really want to talk about this topic was the fact that I knew that I knew this was going to be problematic for a lot of people. I knew that people would get doxxed. I knew that people would lose their jobs. And for me, it's like I don't have no time for that. Like I don't have no time to be going back and forth with nobody, and for them to like try to expose me and try to ruin my career for basically an event that had nothing to do with us. Because now, although I do think that he said denigrating things about black people, this particular incident has nothing to do with black people at all. Like it has nothing to do with us. So I get in the uproar when like black people are harmed directly or indirectly by something in the media or something, some type of event. That's when I feel like I have to like let my voice be out. But like just to kind of see that this was like it's a white on white crime right now. It doesn't really affect me in that same way. I thought about having a very level headed discussion with somebody that I respect their mind, and somebody that I know is very knowledgeable about politics. But um, I just thought that I didn't want to sit in front of somebody trying to convince me to look deeper into something that I'm already familiar with, right? But also I was worried about the exposure of this kind of content, and how it could definitely be detrimental to things that I got going on in my life. And some people might call that cowardice, you know what I mean? But it's like, no, man, like there's bigger entity. Like on one hand, you could say, well, you're not that big. You're not that big of a content creator. You don't have no kind of foothold in anything for you to be canceled, which they're correct. That's a factual statement. However, I look at it like, well, people more important than me have people more important that generate more money, that are on a bigger stage than me, have been canceled. So it's like the big domino falls, and then everything else can fall too. So it's like it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. So it's just crazy. But leading into that, right? So Jimmy Kimmel Live, it's essentially being canceled. It's essentially being canceled. So that's our next topic. That's our next topic. And but yeah, just again, you can leave a comment below what you think about the events that happened on September 10th. I don't know what to say. I don't know how to really pose a question as to what kind of comments I like, but leave a comment below. Share your thoughts about that event. You know, whether I agree or disagree, whether you think I'm agree or disagree, just let me know what you think in the comment section, and maybe we can have a discussion there. But Jimmy Kimmel, his show was essentially canceled. So let's see, let's see if we can read a little something here. This article is from a couple days ago. It says why Jimmy Kimmel's show was yanked off the air. I'm gonna read this real quick or a piece of this, and we'll go on there from there. Let's see. Okay. Here we go. What we covered here, it says Disney's ABC pulling Jimmy Kimmel's late night talk show off the air indefinitely is not the last shoe to drop. FCC Chair Brendan Carr said on Fox News today. Carr also praised President Donald Trump for creating a massive shift in the media ecosystem. A source told CNN that while no decision has been made on how to move forward, Disney is hopeful there's a path to bring Kimmel's show back. Kimmel's contract is up at the end of his current season, taking him through May of 2026. Kimmel's show was pulled amid public pressure from Carr and ABC affiliates. The controversy stems from Kimmel's comments on Monday night's monologue about Charlie Kirk's suspected killer. Kimmel has not yet commented on the suspension. Let's see. There's a lot of people. Okay. I thought I had a piece of this article that was gonna get into who Brandon Carr was. Let's see. Okay, yeah, let's take a look here. Disney's ABC is taking Jimmy Kimmel's late night talk show off the air indefinitely amid a controversy over his recent comments about Charlie Kirk's suspected killer. Jimmy Kimmel Live will be pre-emptied indefinitely, an ABC spokesperson said, declines to share any further details. A representative for Kimmel did not immediately respond to a request for comment. The sudden decision came just a few hours after the Trump administration official responsible for after the Trump administration official responsible for licensing ABC's local stations publicly pressured the company to punish Kimmel. At least two major owners of ABC affiliated stations subsequently said they would preempt Kimmel's show, sparking speculation that the owners were trying to curry favor with the administration. The local media conglomerates are each seeking mergers that would require administration approval. As Kimmel prepared to tape Wednesday night's episode in Hollywood, ABC decided to pull the plug, much to the astonishment of the entertainment industry. Here it says here it says free speech and free expression groups immediately condemned ABC, calling the suspension cowardly, while President Trump, who frequently sparred with Kimmel, celebrated all the way from the UK where he is on state vacation. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Trump wrote in a post to his Truth Social platform. That leaves Jimmy Fallon and Seth two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. Says the indefinite hiatus underscores how politicized opinions and comments around the murder of conservative activist Charlie Kirk have become, with high profile campaigns urging employers to fire people who make comments perceived as unflattering about Kirk. So again, it's like that's what we're here. That's what's happening right now. As a matter of fact, I do actually have a little video to share. I have a little video to share here. So it's gonna be about. Uh, oh, I have a video share. It's gonna be about kind of like this Kimmel stuff here. All right, here we go. I'm gonna share my screen here with y'all. All right, let's share a listen here.
Understand the full impact of Jimmy Kimmel's show being pulled off the air, you have to first understand how broadcast television works. Jimmy Kimmel has a staff of about 22 people and hundreds of production folks who work on creating the content that is creating the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. That show is then produced by ABC. ABC then has to work with the distributor, in this case Sinclair Broadcast Company, to get the show onto your television. It was Sinclair Broadcast Media that threatened to not distribute any of ABC's programming unless they pulled the Jimmy Kimmel show. This is the Sinclair Smith family, and Julian, the patriarch of the family, was a pioneer of early broadcast television. Sinclair Media Company controls about 26% of everything that gets aired on television. They are an open and unapologetic conservative family. They donate almost exclusively to the Republican Party. And while the old man passed away in the 90s, the company has been run by his sons ever since. And you can see a little bit more transparently now how this Jimmy Kimmel thing happened. They write that they will not lift the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live on their stations until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. They also want Jimmy Kimmel to issue a formal apology to the Kirk family and to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. And they reiterate, regardless of ABC's plans for the future of the programming, hinting that perhaps ABC will just straight up cancel Jimmy Kimmel altogether, Sinclair intends to not return Jimmy Kimmel Live to the air until they are confident that these steps have been taken. In addition to ABC, Sinclair controls the distribution for CBS, Fox, the CW, and NBC. And because of the way that television is set up, they have the right to preempt or refuse to air any show that they don't want to air. Sinclair Media is also a huge lobbyist of the government, constantly trying to break down controls and regulations against media monopolies. They have a very close relationship with Donald Trump himself and many members of the Trump administration. And they've been criticized for decades now for doing this thing called must-reads, where all of the local news channels that they own must read certain content that Sinclair provides. Very often that content includes conservative talking points, conservative politics, or otherwise conservative stories. They are incredibly powerful. I mean, probably the most powerful entity in media, truly. And tomorrow night they plan to air a tribute to Charlie Kirk in the Jimmy Kimmel Live slot. Well, couldn't ABC just move Jimmy Kimmel to another distributor? No, because the other distributor is Nexstar, and they are just as conservative as Sinclair. They also said that they will not air Jimmy Kimmel's show until he makes certain amends with the Kirk family and with this distributor. It's a rock and a hard place, guys. It's Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert now, but could be anybody next.
All right, so there you have it. So thank you for that. Under the desk news, a lot of useful information, pretty much breaking down everything that kind of went down. But they're talking about how this, like, it's just crazy how broadcast media. One, it's kind of wild how it's still alive because it is such a monopoly. But the same distributor, what Sinclair Media, they distribute, if they distribute all the content for all the major broadcast networks, ABC, Fox, NBC, CBS, and then you talk about even smaller ones like the CW and stuff like that, then like there is no place for this stuff to be. There's no way for this to be like remedied. Like it is what it is, and it is what it is. Let me see. It is what it is, and it also just shows you that, like, because we could talk a little bit about free speech, but at the end of the day, when the president when the distribution company has certain political leanings, and then the president and they're in the president's ear, or the president is in their ear about what can and cannot be broadcasted, then it's, yeah, again, you're in between a rock and a hard place, and there's like no way to kind of like beat that system, so to speak, unless the only thing that you could do is to kind of distribute independently. And these companies they don't want to do that because there's billions of dollars tied into these deals that they're not just about to start going on to YouTube and giving us content directly. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. But it's kind of crazy with the free speech stuff because you have all these people getting doxxed, and you have You have, yeah, late night talk shows getting canceled. So Stephen Colbert, he's going to be off the air, I think by the end of next year, or middle of next year. Jimmy Kimmel, if his show comes back, his contract will be up. So sometimes I'm wondering if this is like a bigger, like if it's a bigger play to just kind of truly get rid of late night talk shows, or is it a way that like, are we gonna see late night talk shows ever again after these mainstays kind of go away? Are they gonna revive it? Is there still a need for that? I don't know. Like, I think those platforms were places where celebrities could kind of, plug things that are brand new. It would be a stage for like newer artists, like if they got a chance to perform. And like those platforms aren't going to necessarily exist anymore if these things keep dying. But it also is like, were these companies just gonna end these contracts anyway, and this publicity is now a reason for them to do it? There's partly that, but also too the whole thing with free speech and how everybody now is arguing what free speech is. The freedom of speech was designed so that you would not be imprisoned for things that you say. Um, there is a disconnect sometimes, because like when it comes to like even like what we say on social media, when it comes to free speech, everybody thinks that they're allowed to say whatever they want, which they are, but you're not free of consequences. You are free from governmental consequences, and to an extent, because free speech does not protect, like governmental free speech, First Amendment does not protect like things that like incite violence and things like that. It doesn't, but just saying that you hate the president should not reasonably incite violence. But some people would say like, no, it does. But that's not kind of how it's supposed to be. So yeah, we think on social media that we can say whatever we want, but also we got to understand that we agreed to terms and conditions that give up that right essentially, and like the content, the platforms control your content. Like whatever you post on Twitter is not what you know what I mean. Like, even though it's your words that come from your page, it belongs to X. You know what I'm saying? Whatever pictures you post on Instagram, those pictures and videos belong to Instagram now. So if they feel like you're representing them in the wrong light, or somebody reports it and gives them attention to your account and that's in a negative light, then you're going to be gone, right? And so free speech doesn't necessarily protect that. The problem with this is that, yes, also too, companies do not have to pay you, and they get to decide what you kind of broadcast on their networks. However, although all that being true, that is all, even though that's true, the problem with this particular scenario is the fact that we know for a fact that Donald Trump was the one that kind of, hey, he's the one that kind of put the press on them to, and Brandon Carr to kind of to get rid of the show, or to silence Jimmy Kimmel. So we'll see, man. We'll see where this leads, but it definitely is a slippery slope. What I'm seeing is that conservatives are comparing this to like just times when people have been canceled in the past, and I don't agree with that. Like, I don't necessarily agree with people getting doxxed and canceled, and people necessarily losing their jobs. I think though, if we're gonna talk with some nuance, I think the difference is that people that were getting canceled for being racist and things like that, like people getting canceled for saying wild things, it would often be because they were working in fields and industries that almost required them to not be prejudiced against people. So, for example, if you have a teacher in a public school teacher, and they go on like racist rants, right? If they would go on racist rants, it would look like, well, how you work in an urban school with all black kids, like how you talking about, so that's something where it's like that's clearly detrimental to what you got going on. Or I don't know, that's an easy example, but like if what you're saying, like yeah, if you're a mental health, you're a therapist, but then you talk bad about all your patients and their diagnoses and stuff like that. Like, yeah, that's something. Or you're sharing patient details, which is a violation of HIPAA, which is a crime. But if it's stuff like that, then I can understand you getting doxxed and things like that. But like people just that where their careers have nothing to do with and it would be no harm to them. People going on the internet and looking up everything that people are saying and probably running bots to kind of track all this type of stuff. That's excessive and that's not necessarily the same thing that was happening. But I can see the equivalency and again we can mince words all day and but I feel like we're not gonna get anywhere because people are kind of hell bent and dead set on what they believe and you can't really change their opinion. So I don't know, man. What do you think about Jimmy Kimmel? What do you think about other shows and other things getting censored? Trump saying recently that people are not allowed to criticize the president. Like you're not allowed to do that. It's like okay, okay. Are conservatives going to see it the same way, or are they more so obsessed with this tit for tat, saying like, oh, but you did this, that, instead of looking at the information for what it is? Is that what's going to happen? I think that's what's going to happen, but we'll see. We'll see. Let me know in the comment section what you think about Jimmy Kimmel's show going offline. All right, next topic and kind of related a little bit, I think. Let's see here. So this is one of my favorite pages to follow, and it's Jermaine Fowler. His it's called the Humanity Archive. It's on Instagram, and it's something I can share on the screen for y'all or something. Yeah, I'll put it in post, but it's a poll. It's something that says the reaction to MLK's assassination in April 1968, and it says when you heard the news of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, which of these things listed on the card was your strongest reaction? So yeah, the reactions are sadness, anger, shame, fear, feels that he had it coming, or then don't know. So the way this poll reads is that almost a third of the country thought MLK deserved to die and had it coming. In America, violence has never been evil. Directing it at the wrong targets is. So this is one thing where people are definitely have compared Mr. Kirk to Dr. Martin Luther King, which I think is an insult because Dr. Martin Luther King was fighting for truly oppressed people, fighting for a cause. It's a false equivalency. Mr. Kirk does not have the credentials or scholarship of somebody like Martin Luther King. He also talked bad about Martin Luther King, but that's neither here nor there. And yeah, but like, and now we have learned to love America has learned to love Dr. Martin Luther King and they want to use his words kind of sometimes a little bit out of context to kind of, you know, bump what they're saying when they talk about content of the character instead of the color of their skin. But they use that they always use that like incorrectly. However, the truth is that like when he was active, America hated him. By and large, America hated him and it was a sad day for some people, but a lot of people thought he had it coming. There are some people that have similar sentiments about Mr. Kirk. So, and decades from now, I don't think that he's not gonna have the same legacy as MLK. He's not gonna have the same reverence and love. But there will be people that do have that reverence and love. But I don't know. That's kind of weird. It's kind of crazy. But let's move on, man. Let's move on. I'm all for talking about this topic here. It's just draining, man. It's draining for real, for real. All right, next thing. Okay, on a lighter note, way lighter note. Have you heard about that female only nightclub that closed after one night? Closed after one night. And we're gonna hear about how and why it closed down. So here it says A women only inspired nightclub has closed its doors just one day after opening, following reports that not a single VIP table or bottle service was sold during its debut evening. The venue opened to. So here's my thing: is that they're not giving us a name for this club, so I don't even know if this actually happened. And then we're not getting a location, all right? And I've tried to look a couple different times, but let's just talk about this for the sake of it, right? Says the venue opened to strong attendance with a buzzing atmosphere, lively music, and a packed dance floor. But despite the excitement, one crucial detail spelled its downfall. The bar failed to generate revenue from premium alcohol sales, the very foundation of most nightclub business models. The story first surfaced through a viral post on X, formerly Twitter, by user Rap House TV, which you can't always believe stuff that comes from Rap House. But anyway, uh, which shared images of what appeared to be a bustling venue filled with women. But the caption revealed that the club's revenue problem, despite attracting the crowd, no customers purchased the high margin bottle service or reserved VIP sections that the same most nightclub businesses. Industry experts say the nightclub's rapid closure highlights a well known truth in nightlife economics. Bottle service drives profits. Alcohol sold through VIP packages often carries markups of up to 1,000%, and these sales typically account for most of a nightclub's income. Top bottle service staff in major cities can earn between top bottle service staff in major cities can earn between 200,000 and 400,000 annually, underscoring its central role in the business model. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Let me see. Okay. And I just seen something that talked about like other nightclubs try to do stuff like this. There was some more stuff that talked about it, but yeah, the only problem I have about this article is that yeah, I don't know if I don't even know if this is actually real. Yeah, there is no location at all stated. You could tell us what the name of the club is. We don't know where it is. We don't know if it's here in the United States, if it's in the UK. But let's just think about this concept though, an all-female nightclub. Now, I think that would be, you know what I mean? A lot of LGBT venues are kind of like female only, you know what I mean? Um, or or if they are LGBT, like regular people could, straight people can go in there. But it's obviously they don't want you starting no stuff, or you might have to be invited by a female. It's there be rules, whatever. But like these kind of clubs do kind of exist, so to speak. I don't know how they make them work, but I think the bigger issue is that I guess if we talking about this is the fact that like the structure of nightclubs and the structure of nightlife and why I think it does suffer. Now, in smaller towns, they don't typically offer bottle service for certain things. Um, so there has to be a way to keep these like when they saying that that's the business model, I think that's a failed business model then because how do bars stay open? How do bars and pubs stay open? Like, yeah, they sell food, but like food and beer and even just like bar drinks, that doesn't have the same profit margins as bottle services. So it's like what the that's the reason. The reason that's part of the business model is because they don't know what to do with clubs. I think part of the reason why they don't know what to do with clubs is that the music used to drive the club. The music with now it's like it is more about atmosphere because you're not likely to hear the music that you want to hear at these clubs. That used to be an issue when I was coming up. Like there would be a lot of clubs. There was clubs and then there was like clubs that for me. And I had to find the clubs for me because the clubs that were not for me were playing a lot of EDM, a lot of dance music and stuff like that. A lot of pop and things like that. So like we had to find clubs that were for us, so to speak, and they worked and they did have bottle service at some of these places, but like the markup back then was not that much. For example, we used to go to a place called the Dragonfly, right? So this place closed in like 2011, maybe 2012 at the latest, but 2011. So I only got like 2.5 years of experience in this nightclub. It was the best in our area. It was the best in our like kind of like major surrounding area. It's called the Dragonfly. I was in Harrisburg. But the whole 717, whether no matter where you lived, would go there. But then I knew people from other places. Anyway, we used to cop bottles in there. We used to cop bottles of Moet, right? We wanted champagne. We used to get the rosé. We wanted champagne. Now, a bottle of rosé is like $40. At least back then it was $40. I don't think they've gone up too much in price. You could get one for 120, which that's not crazy. Like that is a markup. That is a 300% markup, right? I mean, you're charging me three times the amount. But and you could get, and better yet, they would sell them like bottles of like Grey Goose. You could get a bottle of Grey Goose for like $100, $90, right? Which is still not that bad compared to what the markup is now. For whatever reason, clubs and people talk about nightlife in big cities and things like that, and where like they don't feel like people are not dancing anymore, and it's about these sections. I don't know when it kind of converted to that because that might have been when I kind of hung up the club a little bit. But yes, all these places are drove off of sections and buying bottles and things like that. So the bottles went up in price, right? So now the bottles, are maybe like $500. VIP sections cost a certain amount of money because they include the bottles, and you got to buy extra. Like it's just like the biggest flex. And I ain't gonna lie, I went out in Miami over the summer when it was my man got married, and we were like trying to find a club to be at, but like really you was only getting into a club if you bought. That's the thing. The table service, the table VIP tables and the bottle service has become a way to kind of get into the club. Period, because they gatekeep at the door. The clubs tend to be over capacity anyway. So that's your way to kind of get in. You can say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna buy a bottle. I'm gonna get whatever," but really, it's a flex, but it's not really worth it. But I know my man's his cousin. I don't know how much he spent, but he got us a table, and we had to get two bottles, and we didn't even really get to drink them because the club was kind of closing or is getting ready to close, and it just, I don't know, it just like everything else about the club was not good. Like I said, there was not a lot of people dancing. It was just like crowds of people, but like there was not no movement. So like the business model of the nightclub is bad if that's what you could rely on, because back in the day they used to get people packing these clubs, and it was because the music was good, right? People wanted to dance. People, you knew that you were gonna go there to dance. You knew that you were gonna, like if you were a guy, you knew you was gonna get some ass that night. You knew you was gonna get to grind up on something. And nowadays that's not really the case. Like not a lot of guys are getting that attention. Like when it was, and that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. Like just in general, like everybody was getting that attention. Like it wasn't like just a select few. Like everybody was dancing with each other. You know what I mean? And nowadays, like that's not even the case anymore. You know what I mean? Unless you go in there with your actual girlfriend, your actual wife, you're not getting the attention that you think you deserve at these places, and it just kind of it sucks. It sucks. So I think VIP tables and bottle service, even though that is the business model, that business model is why nightclubs suck. But if this all female club really did exist, it should be able to thrive. But like if all you were banking on was for people to spend money on overpriced bottles, then I think that means that yeah, it's a bad business model. But also, I don't know how to make clubs popular, especially when the music isn't as good as it used to be. Like there's not as many things to dance to, and there's not a lot of bops the way it was when I was coming up. So I don't know. What do you think, man? What do you think about this all female nightclub? And obviously, yeah, men are the drivers of these nightclubs, man. Men are the ones that flex. Men are the ones that spend extra money. Um, but I guess if you don't have the men in there, it can't thrive. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if those pop up anytime soon in other places. But yeah, let's move on. Last topic, so we get out of here. I gotta keep up with my football. Let's see. I wanted to talk about football, but my Packers are playing right now, so I could not kind of keep up with what's going on. Let's see. I think we got the ball back. All right. As of where we're at in this recording, Packers are up 10-0 on the Browns with about 12 minutes left. 11 and a half minutes left in the game. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about Canelo versus Crawford. All right. So I ain't gonna lie, like I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I don't want you to think I'm not no bandwagon. I had Crawford beating Alvarez going into the fight. I even had one of my mans hit me up. He was like, "Yo, who you got? You watching that fight?" I said, "Yeah." I was happy it was on Netflix, so I didn't have to, worry about anything. And he said, "I hope you're not putting money on that." Now I wish I did put money on it. Now I don't know how much I would have won. Say I placed a $20 bet. I don't know how much I would have won, but I should have banked on my confidence there. I knew Crawford had a lot going against him going into this fight, right? He had to move up so many weight classes, right? His last time he fought, he was at 154. He moved up to 168. He didn't sign. I knew also that was one thing he had against him. He also didn't have he didn't sign any rehydration clauses. So I knew that that was going to be something that was going to be a barrier for Crawford. He wasn't going to. Also, another barrier was that the fact that he wasn't going to make nowhere near as much money as Canelo. So Canelo, it was projected that he was going to make like $150 million off this fight, and that Crawford was going to make like 15 at the most for this fight. That Crawford was going to win about $15 million at the most for this fight. So a lot of people had Crawford kind of counted out. They just thought like Canelo was going to be too big. He's going to be too powerful. Crawford's not going to be able to handle any of his shots that come his way. Like he's not going to be able to handle it. So that's kind of where the energy was. But I was just confident, like, yo, Crawford is determined. Like he's so determined about this. He's not really talking trash, but he's determined, and he's gonna do what he thinks. He's gonna study his opponent, and he's gonna make the adjustments that he has to make to ensure victory. And that's what he did. That's what he did. So, how did Crawford win? How did Crawford win? Well, Crawford, he put on a master class for how to beat Canelo, right? And I think he watched and studied a master class on how to beat Canelo, right? So when I look at this fight, I saw Crawford and I said, wow, he studied that Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight against Canelo, because Floyd Mayweather had Canelo so frustrated. Canelo was punching a lot, was throwing a lot, but he was not hardly landing anything. And that's kind of what it looked like for Crawford a little bit. It looked like Canelo was not really landing much. Um, Crawford, the reason why he won was that he was quicker. He was quicker than Alvarez, right? He looked a lot quicker and faster than him. His defense was way better, right? Even though Canelo was throwing some shots, Crawford was doing a good job of blocking and evading a lot of those big shots. Now he did stand in the phone booth a couple times, and they did have some exchanges. And I think Canelo was surprised that Crawford could take as many hits as he could. But yeah, Crawford was better. His defense was better. He had more resilience. Like I said, they was in the phone booth a couple times, and Crawford took the big shots better than Canelo took Crawford's big shots. You know what I mean? He had a plan of attack, so you could tell he said, "I'm gonna move around, right? I'm gonna be a counter punch. Yeah, I'm gonna move around a little bit. I'm gonna attack a little bit, but I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna be evasive. I'm gonna, So he had that plan of attack. Um, and then he fought different styles. There were times in that fight where he was brawling with Canelo. There were times in that fight where he was a counterpuncher. There were times in that fight where he was being completely defensive. There were times in that fight where he was leading with the jab and doubling up and shooting combos. You even seen Crawford switch his stance a couple times in that fight. So Crawford was fighting with multiple styles at his disposal, and Canelo couldn't figure it out. Canelo could not figure it out. There were times in the later rounds where Crawford was tagging this guy, and you could see Canelo just kind of stand up and just be like frustrated. Canelo had the red face, like nobody got seriously hurt. Nobody got seriously hurt, but it still was. You could still see that Crawford dominated the fight. Now Canelo was pressuring him more a little bit, like he was the one that was like trying to walk him down. But if you're trying to walk me down and you don't hit me, but I'm hitting you, you're not winning the fight. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna win that fight. And when the scorecards came out, I was a little bit concerned because I was a little bit concerned because I thought like there's no way that they're gonna there's no way that they're gonna give a unanimous decision to Crawford because the way that they were even talking in the announcements, it just seemed like they're giving Canelo a lot of credit, whatever. So the scores were 116 to 112. So that's basically saying one fighter won 8 rounds, the other fighter won only 4 rounds, right? And then the other two scorecards both had it 115 to 113, but it was a unanimous decision for Terence Crawford, which I was excited. But then I was looking, I said, yo, this fight could have went the other way and for no reason at all. So I don't like how the judges scored it. I thought the judges scored it way too close for Canelo. So that's basically saying that Crawford only won 2 more rounds than Canelo. And I have to disagree with that wholeheartedly. Canelo won maybe 3 rounds, and I can't even say that he won. He might have really only won 2 rounds, but I would say 3 rounds confidently. Maybe you could say 4 rounds is pushing it. To say that Canelo won 5 rounds, you're drunk, man. There were a couple of times where he was on the aggressive a little bit more and he got hit a little bit less, but he was getting dominated in that entire fight. He was getting dominated. He was not hitting Crawford with clean shots. He was not using his jab at all, and then he made looks like does Canelo even have a jab? You know, um, Crawford outlanded him. He outpunched him and he outlanded him. Right. So I'm just like I don't know how you have it so close. So like the 116, 112, I'm accepting that. That's like an 8 to 4 rounds. But saying it was 7 to 5 is kind of blasphemous, man. And Canelo even said that he knows that he lost. He knows that it was fair and square. He knows that he could not figure out how to beat Crawford. And so if it would have been a draw, if it would have been a split decision, I think that would have low key been a robbery. That would have low key been a robbery if that would have happened. But I'm glad that Crawford ended up getting out on top. One of the coolest things though, and this is what I do got to talk about this. Like Crawford, like again, put on a display the whole fight, right? But he also put on a master class on how to come out. So his entrance was one of the best entrances I've ever seen, right? So yeah, I mean, because you're seeing it. This is in Las Vegas, but then obviously we knew that Canelo was gonna have like probably if he's gonna have a singer, it's gonna be like a Hispanic Mexican singer. But when Crawford came out to the mariachi band, I was thinking like, oh shit, what is he going on? And then I was listening to the song. I was listening to the song, and I said, oh shit, that's that's the song from Desperado. They'd be like, ay, 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 da, da, da. I don't even know what they're saying, but I was like, yo, he's coming out to Desperado. He's coming out to like, and I said, oh, he about to kill some shit. He coming out to Desperado. He about to kill some shit. And then when we see Crawford, what did he have? What did my man's have in his hand? My man's had the guitar case in his hand, and they was singing the words, and then he was singing the words, and I said, "Yo, what a epic entrance, man! What a epic entrance! He's here. He's ready. He's ready. He's gonna win. He's gonna win his fight." And lo and behold, he did, man. What does Crawford do next? I don't know what Crawford does next. I don't know what he does next. I don't know if he's gonna stay in that weight class and try to beat all the guys up in that weight class. People are saying that he could retire. He's 37 years old. He can't go on forever. Canelo is 35 years old. We don't know what he has left in the tank. Canelo definitely looks slow and tired that whole fight, man. Like I didn't, and even the tail of the tape, right? Just and let's backtrack a little bit. They showed like they're about the same height, but then they showed the reach. Crawford had like a 5 inch reach on him. It was like 75 inches to 70 inches. And it was just like, yo, that's how Crawford was like easily able to utilize the jab, and he was able to connect with him. But like they kept saying that Canelo was slightly bigger than Crawford, and I didn't see that. I was like, Crawford looked big, man. Crawford looked bigger than Canelo. And it's crazy how like just people are talking about it and saying that Alvarez was robbed, and they're saying that the announcers were too pro Crawford. And yo, I saw it the whole opposite. Like they were kept trying to find ways to talk positive about Canelo, but they couldn't. They couldn't because he was getting beat that whole fight. So I don't know, man. I don't know where these guys go next. Um, maybe it is time for Crawford to just ride into the sunset, man. Go out like Jordan in '98, man. You know what I mean? Why not? You know? Um, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it goes, and we'll see what these guys plan to do next in their careers. But yeah, man, I don't know what the next. That was a gift for us, man. That was a gift from the boxing gods. I don't know what the next big fight is gonna be. I don't know who I even want to see next. But leave a comment below. Tell me what fight needs to happen. What fight is on the horizon that I don't know about, that I'm not talking about. But like, I need a fight that's gonna get me hype. I don't want to see. I thought we were gonna get a Tank Davis, Lamont Roach rematch. We're not gonna get that. We're gonna get some Tank Davis versus one of the Paul brothers. Ain't nobody trying to see that. I think we're gonna get a Floyd Mayweather and Tyson fight. Don't nobody want to see that. Like I miss boxing, man. I need good boxing to be on. And yeah, man, especially now, we might have a change in the guard. Like just say Canelo and Crawford decide to kind of walk away within the next year and a half. We we have the talent. We have the talent out there. We just need to see them on the screen, right? So that's what needs to happen. But what do you think? What do you think of this week's episode? It might be shorter than normal, might be about the same length as normal. Tough to talk about. I feel like we had to definitely talk about certain topics this week just to kind of move past them. And hopefully next week, man, we just come in with a clean slate. I'm almost done the Gambler documentary. I kind of want to talk about that. I got to see him once I see him, I'm going to be ready for a review of him when I see that. Hopefully we can talk about some football coming up. Yeah, and it looks like my Packers are about to give up a score, and I need them to get a stop here. But other than that, man, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all for watching. If you're still here, I need you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I need you to hit that bell for notifications. I need you to leave comments. I need you to share the content with people that you love and know. But this is your boy Los Def with episode 208 of the platform, and I'm out, y'all. Peace. Peace.